Pause the music.
Unbelievable. All right.
Unbelievable.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of No Place Like Homaha. I'm your host, JD Wonder, alongside my co-hosts, Nick Hendricks and Mikey Love. We have an awesome guest today. Absolutely terrific. I think we had it was phenomenal. Mike, you want to hit a little bit more on it?
Yeah, so we've got Johnston Hobbs with us today. Can't call him Johnston. I kind of said that right at the beginning of the video, but Coach Hobbs, he's an all-around dude. He's an all-around players coach. Been around the game a long time, a long time. I mean, just some quick things for you. I mean, he was hired as a consultant for the Turkish Olympic Committee to help develop Olympic sport of baseball. He's worked with individual Olympic athletes. He's currently working with the Hungary national team to kind of get them to their first WSBC bid potentially. He played at Indiana growing up. He's played professionally. He's huge with catchers. Always going to collegiate camps. I know just previously, I think earlier this year, he was out at Ohio State doing a catching camp with some guys. He's been all over the place. He's obviously been here in Omaha. That's how I met him. That's how I came in contact him with the Corn Belt League. But he runs 224 Performance out of Raleigh, North Carolina, and Peak, as well as a little other that I guess don't really pertain to baseball. But just an all-around dude. Love the guy to death. He's been one of those influential coaches that I think Nick and JD both have. Everyone has their list of influential people. He's definitely on that for me. Great guy. Been around the game a long time. You're really going to enjoy everything he's got to say. Yeah.
Well, without further ado, here's that interview. Alrighty.
Yeah, so we're here with Johnston Hobbs today. Sorry, I'm not going to be able to call you Johnston. I just can't do it. I'm just going to call you Coach.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of having you be my coach for 2 years during the summer in the Corn Belt League.
Yep.
It was a blast having you. You're very knowledgeable. You've been around the game a hell of a long of a time. That's not a knock on your age at all because you are still very young.
Okay.
You're very unique in the way that you do things. I mean, you own and operate 224 Performance, which is based out of North Carolina, as well as Peak. You're connected in so many different ways. With college baseball, professional baseball, up and coming high school athletes, even over national and overseas baseball. It's so cool to be able to hear a little bit about you, read about you, and obviously experience you firsthand. So yeah. I didn't touch on a lot of things there. I just didn't want to go into detail. Kind of let you just take the hand.
First of all, I completely understand why you don't want to call me Johnston, and I appreciate you calling me Coach because I'm sure there are other players that would like to call me other things in my past. So thank you for that, for your kindness. And as far as being old, I think you're only as old as you feel. And the majority of the people that know me will tell you I'm probably about 16, if that's the case.
Yes. Nick and Josh, this guy is at least when he was in the States, he was training to be in the USA National Senior Boxing Championship.
Yeah,
and he holds
man does it all.
Black belts holds numerous black belts in martial arts. The dude's crazy.
So it's safe to say that if you got in an argument with a player, it was going to tumble. You were going down.
It definitely went Coach's way, 100% of the time.
I think the safest thing to say there is don't get in an argument. The whole idea behind and without getting too philosophical, the whole part of the martial arts training since I was about 9, so we're talking about 40 plus years.
Holy cow!
Build a golden bridge for your enemies to retreat upon instead of having the actual war. So always give them a way out and try at your very best not to get into that situation. A little Sun Tzu for you there.
Awesome.
Dropping some bombs on you this morning or afternoon, wherever you are.
Yeah, he was live from Budapest.
Yeah, just for our listeners. So Coach is in Budapest right now, which is in Hungary. Is it Hungary or Hungary? Which is I don't know the proper term.
Hungary.
Say Hungary. Yeah,
Hungary.
Hungary.
Okay.
It sounds
Yeah,
like you're
so
hungry, you know.
he is currently working with the Hungary Olympic team for baseball, and they kind of
Well,
are
the
in a
national
unique
team.
position.
We're hoping
Yes,
to
the
make the
national team.
Olympics, but the national team, yeah.
Yeah, and they're correct me if I'm wrong here, but you guys are in a very interesting and unique spot where if Russia doesn't qualify, you guys will actually qualify for the first time in your country's history, correct?
Well, what will happen is for European Championships, the WBC meets, I think, in February, where they decide the fate of Russia as far as inclusion into any kind of international participation, which so far, across the board has been no, they can't do it. If that happens, then we move into what we call the Class A or Series A, which is the highest level baseball for European Championships. Will be the first time in the history of the country that we've ever qualified at the highest level. Now, it'll be quite the task because we're still really trying to. We won one out of our 3 tournaments last year, which automatically qualified us, and finished second in the other one. So we can compete, but there are other countries in our bracket, namely like Austria and Germany, who have a little bit, we'll say, less stringent qualifications to play for the national team. Like for Hungary, you have to hold a Hungarian passport, which means we can't just go out and find a Major League Baseball guy with a Hungarian last name and give him a spot on the team. So, of course, that was my first reaction, was like, oh, great, I'll just go right back over there and we'll get about 20 guys. But then I learned how difficult it was. And instead, we're bringing them up from within. We have one kid out in California who's actually his dad and his grandparents are Hungarian, Vincent, who might be playing with me in the Northwoods this summer. But he'll be here with the national team with us. So we'll have at least one guy from over there coming.
That is awesome.
Wow.
So just for just kind of building off of that question, coaching in the US compared to coaching overseas, are there any big differences, like notable differences that you see?
To me, the first thing that stuck out is they aren't, because of their lack of exposure. Like, we play so many games and we get so much practice, because even our games are practice. We have so many that I don't think they realize yet the commitment you got to make to play at a high level. Like for them, it's still almost kind of like, without better descriptive, it's almost like little league still. They're kind of high on baseball, and they don't realize that, right now we're working maybe 7.5 hours a week together. And, when I sat them down and told them, listen, guys, if you go play in the NCAA, you work 20 hours. Like, that's just the mandatory time. The non-required weightlifting and stuff, you're going to be working 30 hours, a week at your sport on top of school. And they're like, what? So the big thing for them is the commitment that you have to make in order to be a single sport, dedicated athlete to get to the highest level. The other thing that I noticed the most when we had our first national team practice is every player was trying to imitate a Sports Center top 10 play, running jump throw, charging a ball and throwing it across the body, scoop, because that's all they've seen. And what I've had to do is tell them, look, what you didn't see on Sports Center were the other 9,000 plays that happened during the day that weren't like that. They were very fundamental, basic plays. Get your body in the right position, get your feet underneath you. Let's slow it down. We've got 5 seconds to make the play. So the big thing for me has been more baseball IQ stuff and getting them to actually learn the internal parts of the game. And Mikey can attest to this, how I like putting pressure on defense. We're going to run. We'll small ball you if we have to. We'll score 3 runs without getting a hit if you make a mistake and get 1 or 2 of our guys on base. So my promise to them was, by the time I leave here, they'll be the highest scoring team in Europe for sure. Average wise, let's just hope we can hold the other team to scoring less more times than not. So those are the 2 biggest things that I've noticed. But their desire to get better and their enthusiasm for the sport is really refreshing, because they pay attention to every single word I say, which I'm not used to sometimes, so it's been very nice to be here and have everybody just be quiet when you're talking at practice, even when I'm goofing off. I mean, they got to figure out if I'm goofing off or not. So that's kind of refreshing too.
And then would you say, just looking at like maybe an injury aspect or training wise, do you see like them be a little bit fresher as they play? Like since they haven't been, grinding for years and years and years, have a lot of overuse injuries? Do you see less of that?
That's a good question. They still manage somehow to get arm injuries in because just like at home, people aren't telling you how to pitch correctly. Mechanics is second. If you got a strong arm, nobody's worried about your mechanics. So we have a couple of feeder teams that come in there. There's 12U team, a 15U team. Then we have a 23 and under national level 1 team, which is at the highest level competition. And then we have the national team. So the NB1 team feeds into that. And then the 15U team, we prepare to go 23. So we got a lot of really good athletes. Like there's one 9-year-old kid that we have. His name is Shonyi, and he is better than any 9-year-old I've ever seen in the States. And he just started playing 6 months ago. His hand-eye coordination are that of an adult. And the big thing is we have to keep this kid interested in the sport. Right. He's got to play enough games, practicing. He's insane, but, he's only used to playing, 4, 5, 6 games a summer. What happens is he has to play 20. Is it going to burn him out? Is he going to still like it? So that kid's on everybody's radar right now. We're actually talking about in 2 years, sending him over to the States in the summer to play in a higher end little league or Babe Ruth or something like that. So he can get in a bunch of games. So the athleticism is there, the will is there, the interest is there. I just have to accelerate them and age them like a good balsamic vinegar or a wine or something before it's time.
Gotcha.
So kind of going along with that, you talked about trying not to burn the kid out at 9 years old. Looking at your coaching experience here, I mean, you've kind of been coaching all over conferences and everything like that. The biggest thing that you see with, like you said, with 9-year-olds and kids that are kind of coming into college is the burnout aspect. What would you say would be kind of the biggest idea of controlling that burnout aspect, especially when you need to build their skill level and get them work? Like how can you kind of divide up time for them?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked me that. Now I'm going to get on my soapbox about this. So, like at the Oscars or something, hold up a blinking light that tells me I got 20 seconds left. The thing for me starts with the parents. If the parents don't put so much pressure on their kids and they're not yelling and screaming at games and getting in fights and stuff like that, then the kid will enjoy it. The kids over years haven't changed. They still want to play well. They still want to do well. But now, we have these parents that put all these pressure on these kids. Like you got to go D1 or you got to get a scholarship or you got to get a big deal from Nike or you're not anything unless you go to this school or that school. And it's just garbage. We got to continue to let kids have fun. But also learn how to compete at the highest level within obviously the rules of the game and to be a great teammate. And you can do that if you're not on the field. You can do that if you're on the bench. You can do that being a bullpen catcher, which was a majority of my professional career. You can be a great teammate in a lot of ways besides going out there and making one excellent play every 5 games. So a lot of it is on the parents. And if the parents kind of rein themselves in a little bit and allow the kids to have fun and maybe do some other things too. As a coach, I like athletes that played an additional sport very well. It tends to help them adapt. Like for me, it was martial arts and competitive swimming. Those are my 2 other sports. And so I was a competitive swimmer my entire baseball career. The martial arts were basically because, from the time I was 9 years old, I had like size 14 feet and I was falling all over everything and I need to work on coordination. So that served a purpose. And if it wasn't for those 2 things, I guarantee you I wouldn't be where I am today for sure.
So another question with that, because it's you talked about pitcher arm recovery as well, and especially like him being a 9-year-old, and especially like some of your other guys that are way more on just kind of a fundamental level. the one biggest thing that I really loved, because I was a swimmer as well. I did swimming in 8th grade, and then in high school I got into the diving aspect. But I mean, the biggest thing after diving practice was I would swim for almost an hour.
Yeah.
Because to me that was like a recovery aspect. Have you used swimming as like a recovery aspect for pitchers? Because one, the reason that it helped me was cardio, trying to do running and everything. It was building up almost more lactic acid than anything, and it was just not as, you were doing a whole bunch of other stuff, losing a little bit of muscle mass. With swimming, I was still building arm strength with shoulders. Do you see kind of a beneficial aspect of that as well?
I don't know if one really translates to the other. Although the motions in throwing a baseball, hitting a volleyball, and swimming butterfly are all very unnatural motions for your shoulder mechanically. So I believe that no matter what you do there, you need to do it with a lot of awareness of good pain versus bad pain and fatigue, because it's not necessarily sometimes the mechanic, it's the fatigue that exposes the bad mechanics and causes the injury. Most of my guys, what we do, because it's hard for everybody to find an aquatic facility. Since you were diving and swimming, you had exposure to one every day. To put all these guys up on a bus and say we're going swimming, I better put my lifeguard suit on, because, man, I mean, a couple of them are going down.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a lot easier to get into some good band work right now. We started last week. We do what's called, and I don't mean to get off subject. Swimming would be great if we had the time and the facilities to do that. Swimming is one of this nation's and Hungary's best sports. Swimming, water polo, they're world champions, handball. And I know a lot of swimmers from over here. Is how I got involved with Hungary back in the 90s. We've been doing what we call a 10-10-10 program. It's 10 exercises for 10 reps, and the whole thing takes 10 minutes. And it's basically time under tension. So instead of going out and try to pound out a lot of weights, we're doing very slow reps and very good core stuff just to get very sound. We start our practice with that, and then we go through probably 45 minutes of medicine ball stuff, just exercises I've created, and some specific ones for pitchers. Just on Instagram yesterday or the day before, I posted one with one of the national pitchers who was recovering from an arm injury. So we do mainly that, and then we finish practice again with 10-10-10. And that whole exercise was our martial arts, our MMA warm up. So it ain't easy, and it's funny to see the kids come in and tell me, Coach, I'm sore here in places that I've never been sore. So I know we're getting stronger, which means, we're getting more stable, and our bodies can handle swinging harder and throwing harder and stuff like that. But it's a natural progression thing. And as much as I would love to put them in the water, we just don't have access to that. And I don't know how much you're aware of the things in Europe, particularly Eastern Europe right now, with the energy crisis, with what's going on between Ukraine and Russia. So there are a lot of pools that are closing down that aren't heating in the winter right now. There's one pool where my friend's wife goes to train. You can't take a hot shower afterwards, and they stopped heating the pool. There's a hotel in Debrecen where my apartment is that shut down for the winter because of the energy crisis. So it's really hit here hard. And so things like heating an Olympic-sized pool are the first option. They're going to cut off their thing. A lot of spas. There's a lot of thermal spas here in this part of the world. So thank God those are still open. I wouldn't be able to walk on a daily basis, but those are regulated, by the core of the earth. So we're good with that. But the big places like that are a lot of them are shutting down for the winter just to save money.
I think it's, not to get political, but I don't think you, or at least I didn't understand the effect that war was having on the surrounding countries. So I think it's very interesting for you to kind of bring that to light, because it doesn't get reported on.
Well, and it's something too that, and you've been around me enough, Mikey, where I'm in the dugout, I'm going to spit out some sort of historical something, man. I'm a big history guy.
I love history.
I spend most of my time on the History Channel and Discovery and stuff while I'm over here, not only because it's one of the 4 stations that speak English, but but because it's just my normal thing. So, to be over here and help, particularly in a time like this, because, we're right next door to Ukraine. If I drive from my apartment in Debrecen for 2 hours and change, I can cross the border into Ukraine. So, to be able to be here and help at this time where they need the help the most and not drain their budget, I'm very lucky to be in the position I am business wise to be able to come here and do things like this for them. Is an opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
Yeah, and I mean that's huge. So thank you for sharing that. And just kind of I guess rolling into your business ventures here with you owning 224 Performance and Peak.
Hmm.
You work with a lot of athletes,
Hmm.
whether they be current MLB athletes, current
Hmm.
collegiate athletes, up and coming high school athletes. What is I guess like what's the biggest thing with getting those high so correct me if I'm wrong here, but don't you work with a majority of high school athletes that are looking to go pro or go to college, correct?
Yeah, a majority of our high school guys are guys that are either trying to get drafted right out of high school or identified as or projected as potential draft picks, or are straight out of JUCO. Yeah, college guys are trying to do that. We try to help them evaluate through our player evaluation and management thing. This is probably where you're going to go. This will probably be your offer. You might want to turn it down and go back to college. You might want to take it. It's the only one you're going to get. Or you might want to play summer ball because this is the end of your career type thing. We don't hold any punches, but we work with everybody to try to maximize their opportunity to fulfill their goal. And we're just going to be honest, because it's a cutthroat business. You're talking about
Yep.
760 people on the planet of what, 7.5 billion that
Mm-hmm.
play at that level. That's like 1 in 100 million people. I mean, those aren't good
Yeah.
odds, you know?
Yeah.
So when you're facing something like that, you got to be honest about it. Now, I've been blessed beyond words with the amount of kids that I've been able to work with that have gone professional, and that we still work with. And they, to me, are just as refreshing as the little 9-year-old Shoni, here in Hungary. They still have the same love for it and the same intensity and the excitability for it. So they're all the same to me. It's just some get bigger paychecks than the others get allowance.
Yeah. So then you guys work it's more drafting, like valuations rather than recruit or helping high school athletes get to the collegiate level. That's correct?
No, we probably do more. We get more attention because of the pros, but we help more
Mm.
college guys than we do because they're just more colleges,
Hmm.
and there are more spots. I mean, I've been coaching for a long time, and I learned of colleges I never knew existed. I mean, just my last 4 years in Omaha, I've learned of 50 different schools that I never knew existed, which is awesome for me because now I have some network there that I can help some high school kids, or kids that want to transfer. That's another thing. We at any given time, I've got a half a dozen guys, and baseball's like that, because you got to play to get a chance to go pro. It's not like football where you can be the second lineman, second left offensive tackle at Alabama and still get drafted and not play a game.
Hmm.
Baseball, you got to pay your dues and get through the minors and everything else. So, a lot of baseball players transfer because they got to get playing time. So, we do probably more of that than we do the actual pro stuff, just because there's more opportunity there and more kids.
Yeah. So then and we've had a few people talk about, like the recruiting and how that is going from high school to college.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually had Alan on here a couple episodes ago to talk about what it was like to be drafted and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
what do you see with kids getting recruited and going to collegiate, or like transferring from one college to the next, or even like what's that process like with you evaluating where kids might go in the draft order or like with draft picks?
Well, the draft is one of the biggest mysteries on the planet because you every now and then you come up with a generational talent like a Mike Trout or an Aaron Judge, something like that. Um, those guys, Bryce Harper, Adley Rushman, those guys, they're going to go top three, if not number one. After that, it's a crapshoot because it's all about what they need. So you really I rely on my network, and if I
Mhm.
have, like, for example, I had Matt Keating 2 years ago in Omaha, and I was
Yep.
helping
Yep.
advise him. And the Cardinals made him an offer as a free agent. They didn't draft him, but they made him an offer that was about probably fourth or fifth round money, sign-in bonus.
Mm-hmm.
But he turned it down and went to USC. Looking back at it, should he have taken it? I mean, I guess we'll have to ask him. I would, but it was, I don't think he was interested in that organization because he's going as a pitcher, and you got to understand what organization you're going to, how they do things. It's great. I had one player in one calendar year go from high A to triple A with the Angels in 1 year. And
Wow.
they gave him a 7-year free agent contract. But the problem with being a free agent is they can cut you anytime and release you. If they draft you, they own your rights for 5 years. And they, by Rule 5, if you're 18 or over, they've got 5 years to get you to Major League Baseball, or another team gets you for $50,000. Right? If you're under 18, like you're 17 years old and X amount of days, it's Rule 4. You got 4 years to move the guy up, or you lose him. So they're going to spend the 4 or 5 years it takes and the money it takes to develop you. When you're a free agent, they can cut you loose at any time. So it is a tough market. This guy had a 7-year contract with the Angels, even though he was AAA. They're like, we got 6 more years on the contract, 5 more years, let's cut him loose. So now he's a free agent, and we're looking for another club with a 1 or 2 year deal. So we don't run into that problem again. But you got to kind of take what you, and I got to give it to our guy. We got a very handsome offer from a team in the Mexican League, but he said, no, I want to go affiliated, and it's probably 8 times the money. But no, I want to stay affiliated. So I got to respect that, for him.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. There's really no formula, Mikey. It just depends on timing's everything. Did he play well when the scout was there? Because the scouts don't take much time. There's so many players. They come in, if you're not on that day and they check a box X, then all of a sudden your value went down 6 digits, 6 figures. So it's just tough, and your coach has to help you out. You have to have a coach with a network. You gotta be advised the correct way. It's just, there's so many variables that there's really no way to predict anything like that, except for, like I said, that once in a generation talent.
Yeah.
Well, and I think to kind of go off that as well, like when you said the draft kind of gets to become a crapshoot after the first couple of picks, like you take a look at the biggest thing that I can look at was the 2015 draft, because you had 2 of probably the best shortstops, or young shortstops at the time, Dansby Swanson and Alex Bregman, coming from 2 SEC schools, playing against each other in the SEC tournament. And Dansby had 4 home runs, including a very clutch home run against Texas A&M for Vanderbilt. And then Alex Bregman still led the Tigers to a College World Series tournament. And then Vanderbilt fell short in 2015 to Virginia. So, I mean, if you take a look at how those two differentiate from the small stat changes of being a 1 and a 2, and then after that, everybody, like you said, kind of, all right, so what do we need? Where do we got to pick up? But I think even the generational talents like Adley Rutschman, I mean, he was unbelievable. Put up the same numbers in one person as both of those two combined.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the rest of that draft class, I mean, there was still a lot of good pitchers that went in that draft class from Adley Rutschman. So, I mean, the numbers game is there.
Yeah, and I'm a former catcher, so I have to say that in the past 4 or 5 years, catchers have been going higher, and we used to not go first round. Nobody would waste their money on a catcher in the first round. Now they're realizing that you got to have somebody good back there, and these catchers are starting to swing it. And if you can hit, and especially if you're a catcher and can hit from the left side, somebody's going to draft you. So I've spent a majority of my time working with catchers and pitchers, just because as a catcher I had to stare at the pitcher the whole game and listen to him complain or shake me off or whatever. So, it's kind of refreshing to see that. And, I think last year, the year before, a couple of, like, the NC State catcher went. I personally went and watched 7 of his games. I didn't think he'd go that high, but he's an athlete, and they've got the money. I'm looking at it like, am I going to give the guy $300,000? No. They're looking at it like $300,000 is really not that big of an investment. So must be a nice problem to have.
So with that, what would you look for in a catcher, especially now, like you said, if you can hit from the left side, you're swinging it well, you have a very offensive standpoint, but as a whole well-rounded catcher, what would you say that colleges and pro scouts are looking for?
Well, the first thing I'm looking for is athleticism. I want quick feet and quick hands. If I don't care about size, I think that's kind of one of those myths. that you're going to have a big catcher. A big catcher, I mean, it's just physics. The more weight you have, the more pressure it puts on your knees, on your ankles. And, I was probably 220 or 225 when I played, and I'm down to about 215, 210 now, but it wore me out. I'm carrying a lot of weight. I look for quick twitch guys, quick feet, quick hands with a good baseball IQ, and that are vocal. If they can lead the team, if I hear them calling plays, if I hear them talking, I'm immediately attracted to that. I can fix anything else. You know what I mean? But I can't take the brain out and put another brain in. So if the kid understands the game and he's got some athleticism to him, I can make him a good catcher. The hitting part, is the hitting part. If you're a catcher, you try to get your hits in the first couple at bats because you're tired the second half of the game. My whole strategy was, man, if I ever hit an extra base hit or a bomb, it was one of my first 2 at bats. And one of them, and this is a funny story, one of them we were getting absolutely hosed. I think I was playing over here, and we were down like 14-0 in the second inning. It was bad because our starting pitcher had been out the night before and had discovered Red Bull, which is not in the U.S. yet, and vodka made a great drink. So he had so many Red Bull and vodkas, he literally had a stain on his mouth right here. He looked like the Joker from the Red Bull, and he was our starting pitcher. And, man, he was throwing so many wild pitches, and our coach left him in to teach him a lesson, but I'm the one getting beat up.
Oh, yeah.
So my first at bat, I said to the catcher, I'm like, man, I'm exhausted after that inning. You're just going to throw it right by me. And they fed me one right down the middle, and I crushed it. I came back in. He's like, I'm not going to fall for that again.
You ain't getting by me, Slick.
Yeah, I was like, well, I got you once. That's all that counts. Now it's 14-1. Woo! But you try to, you try to get these guys to, they're tired by, 6th inning. They're worn out. So the way I train them is, you have to be able to make the perfect throwdown in the 9th inning because that's when the game could be won or lost. So we do a lot of exercises before we work on mechanics so we can hold our mechanics while we're tired and we know what it feels like. We don't panic. If one of my hitters has to come up and we got a guy on third and no outs and I want to sack or line drive or something, he's got to be able to do that for me. If he's never been in that situation, he panics. So we'll have sessions at practice where I just wear him out. So you know what it's like to feel to play when you feel sick, or you feel that. So nothing is unusual to them. Instead of always putting them in a perfect situation, because there is never one in baseball, I try to put them in the situations where they're tough, but they can succeed and they seem to learn a little bit more.
I love that mentality. That is absolutely awesome.
Well, it's probably the martial arts thing coming through.
Real quick, Coach.
Yeah.
No, Josh, I have a question. Real quick, Coach. Yeah, you've mentioned it here numerous times about how you're training IQ in Hungary, and you've said it a few times just here. And I know we've mentioned it on previous episodes and whatnot. But if you could, real quick, how do you go about training a baseball IQ? Because you can train fundamentals, you can train a swing, you can train all of that. But baseball IQ, I guess to some they might just think, oh, that's just something you're born with.
Yeah.
But how do you go about that?
That's great because that was something early in my coaching career that I was having trouble figuring out. And this is strictly my opinion. I don't know how other coaches do it. But what I try to do is I'll stop them at practice. And we got a guy at first base. And I'll ask the hitter, what are you thinking right now? Hit the ball. Why? You got to come up to the plate with a purpose, right? You got a guy at first. Your job is to get him to second any way you can. Right? That's a quality at bat. Make the pitcher pitch and get the guy to second base. Right? That is your job. So I break it down like that. Now, we got guys on first and second, no outs. What do you got to do? I got to get them to second and third. Okay, now if it's early in the game, I'll let you take a swing. If it's later in the game, I don't need to give you a sign. You got to put the ball down. You got to get them to second and third because the base hit makes it 2-0. Right? So it's all about recognizing what's going on and paying attention. And you'd be surprised with, a lot of people say, yeah, you're born with it, but you can definitely increase it and enhance it by just paying attention to the game because you recognize things. And that's how I did. I'm like, oh shit, last time I was in this situation, coach called for this. And I could look over and he would just look at me and I knew exactly what was going on. And I've had players like that. I had some twins at Flanagan High School down in Florida who played their entire college career for me in the summer. The Sarmientos, one of them was a pitcher, one was a right fielder. But David Sarmiento was probably the best base runner I ever coached. He picked up on things like he would pick up on things that I didn't see, and we'd have conversations in the dugout, and I could just look at him and know what he's looking at, and next thing I know, he's at third base. So it's that type of thing. That was his deal. I'm a base runner. My on base percentage is 450. That's really good. Now I'm going to make them pay. So the whole attitude that I've taken with this team is, look, guys, we're going to take bases. We're going to take what they give us. And it's going to get in their head so bad they will have to adjust to our running game and not our hitting game.
Sorry. Again.
No worries.
All right. So technical difficulties there, but
so if you weren't sure of where you left off, because I was extremely just invested in the whole.
We're all just right there. It's perfect.
Baseball IQ talk is my favorite. So you were talking about a base runner who, I believe the last thing that you said was the 450 base runner. I'm going to make you pay as soon as I get on base, and how can I get home faster? I believe is where you left off.
Yep. And so that's kind of the whole philosophy that we take is every team needs at least one of those guys, right? I know in Omaha I had one or two really fast kids that were guys that were designated to come in and just take the base. Like you've got one job today, and when you get in, it is to get a base and to pick up on what the pitcher's doing without me even telling you. So the only way to do that is to put them in situations in practice. Every practice is a game situation. We can hit off the tee and all this stuff, but the thing that we do most or more than anything is put everybody in game situations, and we're going to take what you give us, and we're going to get in your head and make you adjust your game plan to our base running rather than our hitting. And when you do that, then all of a sudden you make a few more mistakes as a pitcher, and you leave a few more balls over the plate. And the next thing you know, your pitch count goes up or you get hit, we've pissed off pitchers before. Like they've hated us for that, and I know they don't mean it, but okay, we accomplished our goal. We ran bases so well that you lost your marbles, right? So on the baseball IQ thing, we get the check, you get the X.
Yeah.
It's pressure, we just keep pressuring.
Yeah. And I can speak firsthand just with everything you've said. He's not lying in any or exaggerating in any aspect. Coach was a guy who was like, I'm here to win every single goddamn game. And like, obviously if we don't, I'm not going to rip your ass, but I expect this team to be very good. And you won the past 4 summers? The past 4 summers you won?
Yeah, we have 6 championships in 4 seasons. So we've been to the championship game 4 years in a row. Yeah.
You would think somebody would figure out how to slow you down, or at least do something like try to think ahead of you. Because I mean, that's the other baseball IQ part of it is that, like, the opposing coach, if you've been getting your ass handed to you by the same dude for over and over and over, it's like, all right, what can we take away from your aspect of the game?
Well, Mikey, you could ask Sonny that, because I put his ass on a platter so many times. You can ask him how to adjust.
I will. And we'll tell you one thing. Here next. So there
was one young coach in the league, Austin Alexander. He's a coach at Bellevue, I think, pitching coach. He gets it. He made me coach harder this summer than I've ever had to coach. Like I had to think, and my experience is what led us to where we were this year in the record number wins and the fewest losses ever, all that great stuff that I forgot was happening because I was so used to the guys executing and doing what we're saying. So yeah, you get I want us to go in thinking we're going to win every game, right? That's our mentality. Just like you're thinking you're going to swing at every pitch, and at the last second it's no. It's yes, 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 no. It's never no. I'm not going to swing. Yes, So we go in there. If you don't believe you can hit the free throw, you're never going to make it. So if we play our game, we will win this game. You guys are that good. You've practiced that hard. You deserve it. It's not an ego thing. It's not a ring chaser thing. It's nothing like that. I want to give you guys the best possible experience you can have. And if you listen to me and we execute the right way and you think, you're going to have the best season of your life. And I've been lucky enough to have the last 4 years of guys buy in. And it's funny. 8 or 9 of those guys are coming with me to the Northwoods next year from different teams in Corn Belt because we've had guys leave teams to come play for us, at the Filth Ballers because they want to learn that type of stuff. Because God knows, we don't get like a ring or a trophy or anything besides a pat on the back, but that's okay. The experience is what we're after.
Fucking nudge. Get on it, Joe.
Yeah, right.
I mean, people like to win, and winning's contagious. You definitely win a whole hell of a lot. It's a damn
keep
shame
in mind,
you won't.
I had to lose a lot to learn how to win. So you got to be patient
100%.
in the phase of your career. You got to really be patient there. And there's a lot of times I second guess myself, like, man, should I just be in development of catchers? Should I be a manager? This and that. And, I stuck with it. And I think getting older helps. When I was younger, I was more like, hey, it's my way or the highway type thing. And now I'm evolving with the kids and saying, okay, well, tell me what it is you need to tell me and we'll discuss it. Now I may shoot it down. I may laugh at it. I'll cut a joke, but together we can solve the problem. So I think that's where it starts, really. And I didn't mean to interrupt there, but
no,
yeah, I've been blessed with a lot of victories, and we can even learn something in losing. Bruce Lee has one of my favorite quotes where there's nothing wrong with failure. It just teaches you there's something wrong with your doing. Mm-hmm. So it exposes what we need to work on. And, we take it from there. So maybe I need to write like a Zen of baseball book or something with all these.
I'd read the hell out of that. I don't read a lot.
Awesome.
You get me to read.
If I wrote it.
Nick, I didn't even know you could read, honestly, Nick.
No, I just stare at a page and I just see scribbles.
Thought it was all just picture books, yeah.
Yeah,
dude, don't knock on my.
What are these crayons for?
Yeah.
Bro, if it has scratch and sniff in it too, I am set.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I thank you again so much for sitting down with us today. A lot of great stuff.
I appreciate you guys. Yeah,
we appreciate everything.
And Mikey, it's been good seeing you again, buddy. And I appreciate you guys thinking about me with this. And make sure you give Sonny some crap for me, okay?
Oh, I definitely will. Yeah, if you don't mind, I might reach out to you again in the future. Just even have another one like this where we can just talk more.
Anytime, reach out to me after I get back in the States. That'll be in January.
For sure. Okay.
Sweet.
Let's do it again, man. I'd love to. There's a lot to talk about.
Perfect. Right? Yeah. Thanks so much. It's a damn shame Omaha won't be able to host you again this year.
But I'm going to miss it. I love Omaha. I will miss it dearly, but I plan on visiting probably in February or March. We'll come back, get some training in over with Grover, we'll get back there. I like that place. So
the Northwoods.
Hey, listen, you guys have a good Thanksgiving. We don't have Thanksgiving over here, so I'm a little jealous. But have a good Christmas and New Year's too, and we'll talk to you when I get back. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, thanks. Happy holidays to you as well.
You guys take care. All right. Good night.
Good night.
See you. Bye-bye.
And that was
Bibbidi.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Okay.
It's just times like I just never know what's gonna happen. Like most of the time, it's pause the music, but like
it's so random.
Only at the start. Only at the start do we say pause the music.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Well, that was awesome all around. Again, big shout out to Johnston Hobbs for
Coach Hobbs. Say it correctly.
Well, he wasn't my coach, and like
I don't care. You can still call him coach.
You gotta respect the man.
I do respect. I definitely respect him. I just didn't want to like take it, be like, oh yeah, he's my coach, like because he's never taught me. You know what I'm saying?
This is PEMDAS.
This association.
Okay,
perfect.
Here we go.
All right, well then, Coach Hobbs, a lot of great stuff. And again, I will say when he's back on the podcast, not if, because definitely welcome back, and it made it a lot of promises to be like, I'm going to be back on. So when he gets back on here, we'll have more questions for him. Again, since you're already here, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you have more questions that we can either hit Coach Hobbs with the next time he's on here, or other people you want to see on here, please leave some comments. Again, you can find us also on all podcasting platforms at Pod. I don't know what happened there. It just came out.
It's a weird day.
It is. Yeah. I mean, we're recording in the morning for shits and gigs. So.
Josh, has Nick been sideways for you the entire time?
Yes,
he has been for me. Okay, cool.
No, you're lying.
That's serious.
Oh my! Why didn't you
Like,
tell
you've
me?
just been,
I thought you were
been
just going
vertical.
for it. You're the
That's
video
what I
guy.
thought.
You're the video guy. You know what's
been
going
Usually
on.
I record
the
with my other
entire time.
No, usually I record with my other camera, and it's at my boss's house this week. So I've had to sit on my phone. Next time, tell me, you dipshits.
All right, learning curve.
He's gonna have to.
Oh my!
Please
You
just
had
leave
to-
it sideways. Just leave it sideways
Leave
for
it,
the.
leave
for the
it.
podcast.
There's no way I can change it.
Good, leave it. It's
They're
gonna be
I
three
thought it was like
people
a
who
thing,
who are
so he
normal.
could be like, just turn it.
Yeah.
No,
we're gonna have
oh
three
my
people
I
that are
don't know
normal,
these
and then
things.
it's
I'm
just gonna
not
be Nick.
Not a video guy. He should be like, I guess.
People are gonna
For
be
the
like,
question I have today.
What the fuck is this guy doing?
Okay, so hold on here. I'm gonna do a test here with the camera. Am I good now?
Now you're fine.
Oh yeah, you're good now.
What
yeah.
the hell? All right, so we're
That's
gonna go back
amazing.
to sideways, I guess.
I love it. And now it's
go back to
rounds
vertical.
regular.
Actually, keep it for
Now
the
it's
last
fine.
5
No,
seconds
it's
of the video.
still fine, just like that.
It's regular
perfect.
like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
This was the same way I had it at the start. What the?
Well, you were
All right.
vertical.
You just
from
got
the
owned
very beginning.
by your phone.
Yeah.
All right.
Get
Well,
wrecked.
I can't wait to see this
Again,
on
you
video.
can find us
so.
also on TikTok and Twitter at Homaha
Yeah.
Pod.
Real
We'll be
quick
dropping a
before
lot for this. And again,
Stop! Let me speak.
no,
Before we go, before we permanently pause the music until next time.
permanently. You gonna die?
No.
I'm just permanently
my
pausing
God.
the music until the next episode.
Gonna go sleepy time in the forever box.
I just want to say, on behalf of No Place Like Omaha, Coach, thank you so incredibly much for taking the time out of your day to do this. I know we've got the time difference going on here, and you've got a very busy, schedule daily. So thank you for taking the time out of your day off, nonetheless.
Yeah.
To talk to us. So thank you.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yep. And
Now you
have
can
more.
do the
Now
outro.
you can-
and
now
have
you can do it.
more. We've been doing the outro this entire time. So
I'm going to not say another word,
all right.
except for
Well-
sponsored by Flintstone Nuggets.
Oh, of course. I had to plug it.
Flintstone.
But again, if you have people that you want to see on the podcast, this goes for all the listeners out there. Just let us know. We'll see who we can get on here. But again, we got a bunch of interviews lined up that are going to be a good time.